Woolly mammoth, woolly mammoth, woolly mammoth. Whenever someone says woolly mammoth, I get goosebumps. I think it's one of the most epic creatures that ever lived on Earth. And if cloning technology could bring back extinct animals, I think this would be my #1 pick. Maybe #2, the saber-toothed cat. But the woolly mammoth is so damn cool. And in recent years, we have learned so much about them that I feel like it's just a matter of time before they do come back. Back in March of 2010, scientists announced that they had successfully extracted DNA from a woolly mammoth that was found in Siberia. This is a huge deal because it is the first time anyone has gotten usable DNA from an extinct animal. At the time, researchers said that they had no immediate plans to clone a woolly mammoth, but rather they just wanted to learn more about them. But since then, things have changed. A few months ago, a Japanese billionaire named Shin'ya Yamanaka announced that he would fund research into bringing back the woolly mammoth. In case you don't know who Shin'ya Yamanaka is, he is the founder of a biotechnology company called Cytonn Inc. His company made a name for itself by turning ordinary cells into stem cells. This discovery earned him a Nobel Prize back in 2012. So, yeah, basically, the future Dr. Dolittle has pockets deep enough to make some crazy shit happen. In a recent interview with Wired magazine, Yamanaka said that his interest in cloning the woolly mammoth started when he was a student at the University of Tokyo. He said that he got lost in a museum exhibit on woolly mammoths and their extinction, and that it inspired him to try and bring one back. He told Wired, "It's not just me. Everyone thinks mammoths are cool." As of right now, Yamanaka and a team of scientists are working on 2 different methods for bringing the woolly mammoth back to life. One method involves editing elephant DNA so that it can produce woolly mammoth traits. The other method is to splice woolly mammoth DNA directly into elephant cells. The reason they're doing this through elephants is because woolly mammoths and Asian elephants share a common ancestor from about 27 million years ago, so they should be able to use an elephant as a surrogate for the woolly mammoth. But unfortunately, there is a big problem with this plan. Even though scientists were able to extract DNA from a woolly mammoth in 2010, the quality of the DNA is extremely poor. There's really only 2 reasons why. 1. Their location. The woolly mammoth went extinct on the mainland 10,000 years ago, but they survived on an isolated island until just 4,000 years ago. This means that their DNA would have been subject to less erosion, which makes it easier to extract. But the same thing can't be said for the woolly mammoth remains in Siberia. They've been exposed to the elements for far longer than the ones in the island. But there is another explanation as to why the DNA is so badly degraded. It might have been a viral infection that caused the extinction of woolly mammoths. According to a new study published this year, a giant virus called Pithovirus Sibiricum is likely responsible for killing off not only woolly mammoths, but also woolly rhinoceroses and giant deer. Pithoviruses are so large that they can be seen with the naked eye. They look kind of like a giant tadpole, and they cause infections known as pithoviruses. If the virus attacks an animal, it will store itself inside the liver and fat cells, essentially hijacking the organism and turning it into a virus factory. Then the infected animal starts showing symptoms like a high fever, neurological problems, and eventually death. Once the infected animal dies, the pithovirus will exit its host and infect others. Basically, it's a giant virus that can decimate an entire species. Scientists believe that a single outbreak may have wiped out 30% of all woolly mammoth calves. Now, you might be thinking, well, why doesn't this happen today? Why did it only happen back then? Well, according to the theory, the end of the last ice age led to a massive die-off of large mammals, which led to a decrease in the number of herbivores. That meant there wasn't enough food for the virus to spread. And it turns out that during times of ecological change, viruses become less stable, and over time, they start breaking down, which would explain why the DNA of woolly mammoths is so degraded. So this virus seems to have done a number on the woolly mammoth gene pool, which means that even if scientists are able to clone one, it might not even be a healthy animal. Now, Even though woolly mammoths have been dead for thousands of years, they still hold a special place in our hearts. And I'm sure everyone would love to see one roaming around in the wild once again. But what if they came back sick and deformed? Wouldn't that be worse than having none at all? I think so. However, there is a group of scientists out there that aren't too concerned about that. They're led by George Church, a professor of genetics at Harvard Medical School. George believes that even if they clone a woolly mammoth, it won't be a perfect animal. The mammoth genome contains between 5 and 10% of the DNA from other species that have been integrated into its genetic code over the millennia. For example, bacteria, fungi, viruses, and single-cell organisms. These foreign genes are thought to have come from woolly mammoths consuming these organisms or having them living inside their bodies. George says that it will be impossible to remove all the foreign genes from the mammoth genome. Therefore, any woolly mammoths cloned today would be considered a chimera, a creature with multiple sets of DNA. But Professor Church isn't worried about that. He says that it shouldn't affect the animal's health. What's more, he says that it could actually be helpful because they might be resistant to diseases that normal mammoths are susceptible to. Church says, I think it would be wrong to try to create a pure mammoth, because that would take a long time and wouldn't be pure anyway. Also, there's a lot of interesting stuff in the genome that may be beneficial to have in modern mammoths. So what does this mean for the future of woolly mammoths? Right now, we're still a long way from seeing one in real life. Although scientists say that they might have a viable elephant woolly mammoth hybrid within 5 years. After that, it will take another 3 years to produce a healthy baby mammoth. But if everything goes according to plan, we might be able to see these majestic giants roaming around in the wild once again. Of course, that assumes the woolly mammoth won't go extinct again, which is always a risk whenever you try to bring back an extinct animal. When the passenger pigeon went extinct in the early 20th century, scientists didn't realize that they needed both parents to reproduce. So they cloned a female passenger pigeon using DNA from a preserved specimen. Unfortunately, the clone died after only 5 days. There are plenty of other examples where attempts to bring back extinct species failed. But despite all the risks, scientists are still optimistic that they can clone the woolly mammoth. And we're not talking about some mad scientist type either. We're talking about people like George Church, who says that even if the woolly mammoth comes back sick and deformed, it's still going to be worth it. He says, if it's the last woolly mammoth, and it's a bit crippled, I'll be very happy. It will be a great privilege to have brought a species back from the dead. It will be a privilege to have a living fossil. I believe it is possible that we will resurrect the mammoth, but I don't know if it will be pristine. But even if it's not, we'll learn a lot along the way. Personally, I agree with Professor Church. I think it would be amazing to see a woolly mammoth, even if it's a little sick and deformed. But what do you think? Should we clone the woolly mammoth, or should we let nature take its course? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.